Oh, God. Biden has put the Constitution through a wood chopper. A wood chopper? You mean wood chipper? He means wood chipper, doesn't he? Wood chopper? By the way, I've never seen Sean Spicer look happier. And I'm glad everybody's stealing my blue background idea. By the way, I've heard Dum Dum making its way around the internet. People are watching my clips. I see you. Hello.
I want everyone to get vaccinated, right? But it has an entirely different standard for the thousands and thousands of migrants coming over our southern border and illegally coming into our country about whether they should be vaccinated. Let's just repeat this so that we can be clear. If you illegally enter our country, you don't have to follow the rules and get vaccinated. But
we're not forcibly vaccinating people or giving them free vaccines. And most of them we're packing up on a plane. The people that stick around or they get asylum, then they have to get vaccinated. Most of them do anyways. They're not even having to require it.
The administration wants every other American to go do this. Why? Probably because the answer is too simple. It's all political theater.
I see. Yes. Vaccinations are just political theater. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. He's just letting Haitians in with COVID so that they'll go into, red states, pony right up at the bar next to some, dude in a MAGA hat, cough on him, and then 2022.
All their votes, they don't necessarily really care about their health.
Unfortunately, and the sheer volume of...
Wait, what was that edit? And first of all, what?
They don't necessarily really care about their health.
Unfortunately, and the sheer volume of immigrants coming over the border will stop you in your tracks. More than 10,000 migrants, Sean, are waiting to be processed under the bridge in Del Rio, Texas, and the numbers are doubling by the day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
No, they're not doubling by the day. This, let's see. Today, yes. This was 3 days ago. This is September 17th. There's not 40,000 people under the bridge now. And many of the people who are there have been sent out and then they came back. Yeah.
To look at those photos. And if the images concern you, which they should, don't worry, you might not be seeing much more of them. Look at them while you can. Why? Because the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has implemented a 2-week flight restriction to prevent drones from capturing.
That's because it's not to prevent drones from capturing it. It's because the coyotes are taking drone shots of to find where the border agents are and where they aren't, so they can sneak around them. You can get a license to, as a news organization, have a drone up there, but you got to let them know, and it's got to be a short flight because they're gonna shoot them down.
The kind of images that you're seeing now. The administration is citing what they call a special security reason. But you know what it is? It's not a special security reason.
No.
It's because it's a political disaster for Biden.
It is a political disaster. Those are the worst disasters to have.
And they want to prevent any further imagery. Let's be clear. First, the Biden administration politicized the Food and Drug Administration. Then the Centers for Disease Control. Then they...
Place politics. Service academies, Centers for Disease Control, Food and Drug Administration, Federal Aviation Administration. Huh? These are federal organizations. The policy of the administration drives what these do. All right. We'll see.
Prioritized all of the military service academies. Now they're politicizing the FAA. Remember Joe Biden, the candidate, talking about how Donald Trump had done all these bad things and he was going to keep politics out of all of the big decisions? Clearly, that's not the case.
It's completely the opposite here.
Yes.
And thankfully, though, the Biden administration hasn't banned Republicans from traveling to the southern border yet. Take a listen to what Texas Senator Ted Cruz said.
So let's go to the footage. This is Ted Cruz. By the way, this is the same Ted Cruz, if you'll recall, who went to Cancun during a winter storm where the power went out in his home state and children died.
Crisis in Del Rio.
See what I mean? By the way, this footage was shot. He knew he had to get down there in a hurry to shoot this because he knew there was already a process in place to deal with it, and he had to get down there and get the footage.
Disaster. And it is
It's a man-made disaster that I couldn't bring a shotgun mic down here.
Disaster. It is the result of political decisions, and Joe Biden could end this tomorrow.
Who are you pointing at?
Simply following the law.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a local zookeeper, like one of these roadshow Florida ones. Yeah, welcome to Ted's Migrant Zoo.
Reinstating the deportation lines back.
We need more members to go down there. It's that kind of imagery, by the way, that's going to
Approved numbers of Afghan refugees by state. Okay, approved numbers. Okay.
force them to recognize this, because the mainstream media is not going to show you this. And the administration, as I said, is not allowing the FAA to permit people to have drones to actually show you this anymore. Not only do we have migrants coming
The FAA to have drones?
border. The administration is opening our borders to now 37,000 Afghan refugees, right? We've talked about this for a long time. Here's a map of the numbers each state is expecting. Texas and California, they're taking the brunt of it.
Yeah, because they have the most military bases, and a lot of people work as military contractors because that's what they did over there.
550, 300 refugees going to each state respectively.
The numbers are staggering there.
They're staggering. Any of these people could be terrorists. I mean, have they even looked at the children?
I turn back
All
now.
of them are suicide bombers. Look at that. I saw the scariest little 8-year-old you've ever seen in your life.
These vaccine mandates, Sean, 24 Republican attorney generals are threatening to sue the Biden administration over what they say are illegal mandates.
That's interesting. Let me guess. Amongst those 24 states, they have the 24 worst number of cases of COVID right now. What do you think?
As a reminder, the vaccine mandates under Biden would apply to private companies with more than 100 employees.
Well, it's actually a testing mandate. You don't actually have to get vaccinated. You just have to get tested every week.
In a letter to President Biden, the attorney general said this, quote, "Your plan is disastrous and counterproductive. This edict is unlikely to win hearts and minds. It will simply drive further skepticism." Well,
why? Why would it drive further skepticism? You got to get the vaccine or you got to get tested because the case rates are up. I don't know. That sounds, it sounds an awful lot like Biden would want me to live. Maybe he thinks, maybe they have a ray that makes me vote Democrat and they won't use it till next year. Holy shit. Quick, someone get me some horse paste. I need to OD and diarrhea myself to death.
Bring in two of the attorney generals who signed that letter: South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson and Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Attorneys generals, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and thank you for using Zoom to blur your background so that we can't tell that all of those are just your multiple copies of Mein Kampf. I'm kidding.
Be here.
Thank you for having us.
Attorney General Yost, I want to start with you. I'm sure you're aware of the 10th Amendment as a lawyer. The powers not delegated in the
that would be delegated. Delegated is has, I don't know. So it means something totally different. Something like forced dictation, I guess.
United States federal government are sent and reserved for the states respectively.
Yeah, except for the whole provide for the common welfare thing and the ability when there's an emergency declaration made, and Trump signed the emergency declaration last year and the Biden administration re-upped it, which temporarily surpasses it. Says that these apply to all states. It's an emergency declaration. By the way, if Congress or these states don't want the president to have that ability, they could pass a law and ratify it without by overwhelming numbers if they truly want a hands-off federal government.
The people, it says.
Or I guess you could just secede.
Legally speaking, shouldn't this be a pretty clear case that the federal government can't do this kind of thing?
No. And you were in the White House under Trump, so I don't think anybody would expect you to understand.
Nuclear stockpiles.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I'm not sure that President Biden has ever heard of the 10th Amendment.
I'm not even sure. knows it even exists. Excuse me, I made it funny. Probably you've never even heard of it.
Look, there is no generalized health power for the federal government. And
No, but there's an emergency declaration that Trump signed last year, and Biden re-upped it this year, that deals directly with things like pandemics, because there has to be, or we would lose half our citizenry every time a disease broke out. Dum-dum.
Constitution. Health power for hundreds of years has been understood to be part of the police power, which is reserved to the state.
What? No, it hasn't.
He doesn't have any authority in this matter.
The police power? Oh, I see. So the FBI and the and federal law enforcement has no jurisdiction in a state in general when federal law has been broken, or when dangerous chemicals, or let's say, I don't know, samples of a disease are smuggled over state lines. No?
Interesting.
General Wilson, on that note, the federal government can tell states that
Attorney General Wilson. He's not a general.
to abide by.
I just want to pretend you're a general. Do you have like a suit?
Minimum wage. Sean and I were talking about this earlier, but how are these vaccine mandates different?
Well, they're not a mandate, for one. It's only a mandate to get tested.
Well, first off, Lindsay, thank you for having me on. Let me say I am pro-vaccine, just like my colleague, General Yost. I have gotten the vaccine myself. What I am is I'm anti-vaccine mandate. To your question, Congress...
Well, that's good, because there isn't a mandate, just for the record. There isn't one. There is not one.
Has certain things that it can do, powers that are given to it under the Constitution, to the commerce power, the spending power, but it doesn't have general police power, as General Yost was just talking about, which is generally reserved to the states. In my opinion,
generally,
the president has put the Constitution through a wood chipper and has...
See, at least he said wood chipper properly. The lovely folks at Newsmax wrote Biden has put the Constitution through a wood chopper, which is, by the way, the only kind of motorcycle an Amish person can ride, just in case you were wondering.
We ignored the rule.
Anytime you see Amish at Sturgis, they've been riding a wood chopper.
There is a right way to do things. The courts have upheld vaccine mandates if it's done through a constitutionally prescribed method with certain accommodations allowed. They're not doing that here. They're ignoring
Yeah, what's the certain accommodations? Oh, that you don't actually have to get the vaccine, that you can get tested, and that it's any company with over 100 employees, because those are the companies that tend to have, say, truckers and people communicating, physically between multiple states, which would make it under the purview of the federal government.
So, hold on. Can I, General Wilson, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you touched on something that's important. I want to make sure everyone understands this. Biden used it.
Well, then you probably shouldn't talk about it, Sean. If he said something important and you want people to understand it, then just sit this one out, buddy. You're just going to confuse things.
Emergency use authorization from the Labor Department to do this. It's not a law. Congress hasn't addressed it. This is, I think, what you're talking about. Can you explain this distinction? Because, to Lindsay's point, the federal minimum wage is a law. Congress passed it. The president signed it. This is not. It's an emergency use of the Labor Department rules.
It is an obscure...
Right, because yes, it is under the legal rights of the presidency. Is it a what?
Rarely used provision under the OSHA law.
Oh, I see. It's an obscure and rarely used provision. Oh, you mean we don't have pandemics like this every 3 years? Why is it rarely used, dum-dum? Why would this be an extraordinary measure?
That he's using to ram this down the American people. It has not been passed through a state...
He's trying to ram it down the American people? Excuse me. It's ram it down the American people's throats, or ram it up the American people. You have to... these are important distinctions.
Or through the U.S. Congress under any constitutionally prescribed method. This is a regulation. He's just like we did with the moratorium ban. When he did that through CDC, they didn't have the authority to do that. He's trying to empower OSHA to do things that it did not have the authority to do. For people who are pro-vaccine mandate, I will leave you with this. You may like what the government is doing because you happen to agree with the leadership of this government's policies and its politics, but one day they're going to leave and this power is going to be...
Yeah, one of these days, a Republican's going to get in office, and they're going to force you to get an RFID chip inserted under your skin, or get tested for an RFID chip every week if you want to work at a company with over 100 employees. with a temporary. All right.
Left with this government, and someone you don't agree with is going to have it. That is why we have to constrain the expansion of government power in this case.
Yeah, but you're. Yeah, except you're not. This is under an emergency declaration, which means it is temporary, which means there has to be one again, and then eventually the courts can rule if it's overstepping its bounds. So you still have two remedies to get rid of this. Both Congress can deny the president the right to carry it out, or the Supreme Court could say that the emergency declaration that's causing this particular thing is unconstitutional. This is neither. This is a protection aspect. If when you have 100 employees, there's more of a chance that those people have to be in the same office or the same warehouse or the same building. And so you got to set up something in place so that they don't die of fucking COVID. Either make them get vaccinated or make them get tested if they're going to keep coming to work. Again, this is not a vaccine mandate. Never has been.
If someone is at home right now without a vaccine, they want to go back into their workplace. Their employer
They just have to get tested once a week, stupid.
requires them to get a vaccine. Does that person have any rights right now?
Right.
And does that change
Yes, they have the right to get tested once a week.
if the person works for, say, the state versus a private company?
Yeah, they can just, if it's the state, they can just get fired.
Well, the federal government hasn't put together the regulation on this yet. So if your boss is asking you to roll up your sleeve and take the jab, they're doing that on their own. There is no regulation to enforce here.
Yeah, there's no mandate. Right, that's what he's saying. Say it, dude. You almost said it. You fucking almost said it. You almost said it. There is no vaccine mandate. There's no regulation. There isn't one. There is not one. There's not one. There's no mandate. There hasn't been a mandate. There's not a mandate.
There is. General Wilson and I and our colleagues will be in court.
Yeah, we'll be in court as soon as there is. There isn't, but we'll be there if there ever is. No one's proposing it, and no one says it exists except us, except that it doesn't.
Hold the administration accountable.
For what? Hold the administration accountable for what? Accountable for what? They're doing nothing. There's nothing to hold them accountable for. There's a testing mandate in a pandemic. Test yourself to make sure you don't have a disease that you could spread to your coworkers because it's that contagious. Once a fucking week. Which is not nearly enough if you were being a hard ass about it. Every 3 days would be the safe way to go. Like if you work, especially if you work 5-6 days a week.
The ability for federal employees to set employer policies. But private employers, not a chance.
So a private employer can't tell you that you have to do this if you want to work.
No, but they can make you get tested. Or, well, they can actually define that you could. I'm pretty sure they could actually.
A private employer gets to set their own policies.
Yeah, fuck off, Sean. If your boss says you have to get the jab and to keep working there, yeah, exactly. Let the free market decide. That's business, bitches.
But the federal government is not compelling that. That's their individual choice. And we're seeing businesses choose to do it and not to do it all over the country. And that's called freedom.
Right.
Yeah, Sean, that's called freedom. Can you stop talking? The adults are already confused enough, clearly.
General Wilson, before we go, I know you guys sent the letter threatening to sue. Can you confirm that you guys are actually going to follow through with this and sue the Biden administration?
Sean, we wouldn't have sent that letter if we weren't prepared to back up every word.
Prepared if what was that? Sorry, what? Sorry?
The Biden administration?
Sean, we wouldn't have sent that letter if we weren't prepared to back up every word in it. Obviously, we are working with our colleagues around the country. We're working with governors. We're working with other stakeholders, and we're waiting for the final regulations to be promulgated. But once they are, we're going to be ready to use every legal recourse available to us. Absolutely.
So you mean if they follow through with the thing that they're not actually threatening to do, which is a vaccine mandate. There's a testing mandate. You can get vaccinated or you get tested once a week. So what's the lawsuit about? The fuck are you talking about? The fuck is Sean talking about? What are you guys complaining about? What is this? Because nobody brought it up except him accidentally, and then this guy kind of dodged it a little bit, and Sean doesn't understand it, and God knows what's happening Lululemon here, but none of these folks seem to be talking about anything that's actually occurring.
Junior Wilson.
That seems to be her job, is to go after every statement.
Yes, thank you for your time here tonight. We'll have to catch back up with you to see how this all.
What do you think? I'm sorry. You think they're busy drafting legislation or drafting legal responses to other shit that doesn't exist? If President Biden tries to insist that every Yeti in the Northern Territories gets dropped into our state, you can bet I've got paperwork ready to push back against that.
Out.
Let us know when you're ready to sue.
Let us know when this story might actually be about something.
You bet.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. All right. Shit.